spoiler alert, TAPIF was absolutely worth it. If you have a chance to do it, please do it, please do it. If I could recommend for everyone to go abroad for any reason, I would say yes, every time, without a doubt. But especially for TAPIF. I was gonna call it PAPIF. Let's get into it. So you want to move to France and you're thinking of doing TAPIF, but you're not sure where to start. You're not sure if it's worth it. You're not sure how housing will go. I was there for 8 months as a TAPIF English language assistant, and I went through all of it. So in this video, I'm going to tell you all about housing, whether it was worth it or not, and what the process, the timeline kind of looked like. Stay tuned to see if it's worth it or not. So I'll kind of break it up into pros and cons because there are definitely a lot of cons and it's inevitable, but we'll start with the nice things first. So pros, obviously you get to be in France, you get to live your life there, and the pros of the job is that it's pretty much a part-time job, so you're not stuck to your desk all day. You have a lot of free time. In my case especially, I got very lucky and I had even more free time than all the other TAPIFers. I'll tell you about it in a little bit. Aside from that, you get to travel all through Europe and it's very cheap. You get to have the pastries, you get to have the restaurants, you get to experience French life, you know, and it is incredible. I am a huge fan of France, obviously. Okay, for cons, you're not gonna like these, but don't worry, it's still worth it. So it's very hard to find housing. You either get lucky or you're gonna have a really hard time and it might even make you want to come back to the US. Sorry, but it's the truth. I saw it happen many times and I was very shocked, but I totally understood why. Another con of this program is that it does not pay very much. It actually pays like a very tiny amount. That might not be worth it to some people, but for me personally, it was worth it because of the experience that I got. I just made sure to save up a decent amount of money before I left. That way I could have something to fall back on. But what they pay you at least covers like your rent most of the time. That's a huge con in my opinion, but again, like I said, it's worth it. Another con of TAPIF is that you might feel isolated at times because of course you're in a new country, you don't know many people. It's kind of hard to connect with people. I feel like when you're a student in France versus working, way different experiences. I was also a student in France and I can make another video about that because it was entirely different, but working there is just makes it a little harder to find people. I did so many things to make new friends in France and that deserves a whole nother video because there are ways. It requires putting yourself out there. As for the timeline, I don't remember exactly what the timeline is because I did this program for the year 2022 to 2023 cycle. So that was quite a while ago, but I kind of recall and I have some emails that, you know, kind of tell me the timeline. I likely applied at the late 2021 area because the deadline for that cycle was in January 2022 roughly, I think. Definitely check the website, check the different updates because it could be a lot different from what I'm saying now. This whole process was kind of just like up in the air. Like I really didn't know what to expect. I kind of just applied and just forgot about it and I was like, they'll let me know whether it's a yes or no. I will find out who knows when. It's very tumultuous, I would say. So if you're somebody who really likes planning things and kind of having like the control over the timeline, this might be a little hard for you, but I would say if you're patient or if you can just kind of like do it and forget about it, then you'll be fine. This was whenever I was about to graduate from university. So I was really, really excited and hoping for the best, hoping to be hoping to be accepted to TAPIF, and I did get accepted. Spoiler, that's why I'm making this video. On the 28th of April of 2022, I got an email saying that the results would come out the next day. So imagine, we had a day of turnaround, and they told us the next day, pretty much within the next 2 days is when they were telling people, okay, you got accepted. And I got my email of acceptance. I remember looking at it in the afternoon. I was so stoked. I told my mom first and then I told my siblings, and it was such a beautiful day. I remember being so freaking happy. I love that. And the thing is, you only get notified of your acceptance. And you have, I think, a week to accept your position. You have to tell them that you actually want it, because if you don't answer, you're not gonna get it. I answered right away. I said yes. Once you answer and you say yes, you pretty much have this whole new thing that like kicks off. They're gonna give you like different bureaucratic things that you have to do, like this account you have to make and webinars that you have to assist, where they're kind of like guiding you through things step by step. So you're not entirely in the dark, you know. They give you steps and they have help there. And if you ever feel lost, you can email any of the people and you'll be okay. In fact, I think I remember they made like some spreadsheet with all of our names, all the people who were doing the program. And if you saw someone in your region, you could reach out to them and connect. And I remember doing that. I didn't have success. I talked to people and we followed each other on Instagram, but nothing else really came from it. Just because everyone, you know, once you actually get to France, you're pretty much just enveloped in your own little world. And it's kind of hard, or like you'll forget to reach out to some of these people that you were maintaining contact with. But they can definitely help you with, you know, easing any stress or stuff like that. Something else I had to do was get a background check here where I live in the US, and then I had to get like my fingerprints done and all of that. So they still, you know, go through those things to make sure you're not like a criminal, a felon or something like that. This is my favorite part to talk about because it's so chaotic. Housing. Housing is actually so hard to find. And it's not like that for everyone, but it was like that for me. And I had a really, really hard time. I was so stressed and I was like crying at times and I just didn't know what to do. And I was going through my savings like crazy. So I was assigned the area of Bagneux, which is kind of a suburb in the south of Paris. It was really nice and I was really hoping to find something around there, if not a little bit north, closer to actual Paris proper. But alas, I did not achieve that. I tried so hard. I mean, I had a budget of like 700 a month euros. That was ideally what I wanted, but I could not find anything. I even raised my budget to like close to 1,000 euros. How was I gonna pay for that? I don't know. But I raised the freaking budget and it didn't work. I couldn't find anything. I tried many websites. I did a lot of tours of different places and I always came across very creepy situations. There was one place that I went to. In his description of the apartment, he said, I wish I had pictures actually. I wish I had photos because it was so creepy. Like, how did I not see the red flags, honestly? How am I still here? How am I alive? Because that's how bad it was sometimes. I'm not even exaggerating. I wish I was. I was, what, 22 years old and going through this by myself. When I first got to Paris, I stayed at a hostel, Joe and Joe in Gentilly, and the hostel was really nice. I quite liked it and it was clean, it was nice, people were cool. The problem was that I didn't realize I needed more time to find housing. So I only booked a week at this hostel and I was like, surely I'm gonna find something in a week. But that's not how it worked out. I was so wrong. Definitely give yourself more time to find housing, especially if you're in Paris, because I got there in September. That's kind of around the time that people are starting school. So everything is going to be taking, every student is coming back to find housing. People are getting back from vacations. They might be just moving there because in August, everyone in France goes on vacation, most people. So now they're coming back and now they're like, well, where can I live? Or they already had something set aside for them. I urge you to give yourself time for that because I did not and I suffered the consequences. First place I tried to look at was a apartment in Gentilly. There was a man who had a posting on, I think it was Le Bon Coin. He said that he had like a studio and I was like, oh, that's perfect, you know. It was kind of in a weird area. So I went there, toured it, I went in and it was very like full of stuff. I mean, he had stuff everywhere. And then he like pulls out a child from a room and it was a dad with his child, his little toddler. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know there's gonna be a child here, but it did make me feel a little more comfortable because I'm like, okay, there's a kid here, like I'll be fine with this random man. So this guy had the studio, in fact, but he had this like weird curtain between the kitchen and like the living room area kind of, and that was a spare bedroom. That was gonna be my bedroom that he wanted to give me to rent out to me while he was also living in there with his kid. In my head I was like, nope, I'm not gonna rent this, and I left. I was so shook. He wasn't clear on his listing, so be very careful with listings because people don't give out all the details. Let's get on to the good things. So when I finally found housing, it's because I told absolutely all my colleagues, like that I could not find housing. And my director got me in contact with his friend's son. Basically, those are the people who were going to be like my host family, you could say. They weren't like a host family, but I was just staying in their first floor and they were on the second floor. So I had the first floor basically to myself. I had my own room. It was a very big room with a canapé, so it was like that couch that turns into a bed. Fairly comfortable, honestly. Stayed there 8 months and it was not bad. It was really nice, and the family I lived with was absolutely adorable. They were the kindest people ever. They were just so genuine and always like ready to help me if I ever needed anything. Let's go through some key takeaways. 1. Start your housing search very early. Make sure to double, triple check everything. 2. Bring more savings. Save before you come. That way you can do all the traveling you want, all the eating you want, and have all the experiences you want. 3. Learn French before you come. Even if it's basic French, because you definitely need a small level and it'll just make life so much easier. 4. Make friends internationally. Make friends, like I said, on the spreadsheet. Message them. Put yourself out there. Once you're in France as well, really try to talk to everyone because it'll just make your experience a lot better. Good luck with TAPIF, and I hope you get to go to France. I hope you love France. I hope you have the best experience. I know I did. If you like this content, subscribe. Please subscribe and like the video.